Hello and welcome to my video lecture, which is for you to reconfirm your life direction. This time I would like to talk about a Japanese case in which 77-year-old wealthy person was killed by his 25-year-old wife. I like to focus on the mechanics of its case. My name is Dr. Samurai, a professor in Japan specialized in international social pathology and also an active prison counselor of 20-year experience and only one time Nobel Peace Prize Award official honorable guest. As usual, I'm going to talk about general information first, then move on to analysis in the latter half. Okay, let's start. This 77-year-old wealthy gentleman allegedly owned $30 million savings. This incident actually happened 3 years ago when his young wife was swarmed by TV reporters. Her attitude was so away from sad, loving wife, which of course most of the viewers suspected she might have killed her husband for money. But there was no clear evidence or witnesses. And it took police 3 years to come up with enough situational evidences. It was very ironic that the gentleman who called himself a Don fan, accepting he was a womanizer, was actually killed 55-year younger wife. So it became kind of big news. First, his dog died. He loved his dog so much, so he was clearly depressed. His murder actually happened a few months after that by using methamphetamine. This was also very unusual in Japan. And which one of the ex-investigators was saying the first case ever that happened in Japan. At the age of 77, he was getting physically weak, and especially he was wearing a diaper, but still here and there he dropped his droppings, stools and urine, clearly knowing his wife doesn't love him, and they were actually living separate, and only once a month she visited him at his house very close to Osaka, the western part of Japan. By killing his loving dog, she intentionally made him depressed so that she created a situation that it is not weird for her husband to commit suicide in a frenzy of having lost his loving dog, and he used methamphetamine, which he was not used to using. That was the kind of scenario I was now thinking about, but which was not proven yet. But it is very unusual for a person who hasn't used methamphetamine before suddenly resort to using it, especially he drank it. That must be considered very unusual behavior. So I'm pretty much positive what I said could have happened. I would like to move on to why this 25-year-old wife was obsessed with money so much as killing her husband. When she got married with her husband, she was only 22 years old. She was well known around friends that she was a pathological liar, always boasting of her money and her connection, how much she spent at expensive bars served by good looking boys and stuff. So she was hated by her peers when she was a student at beauty school. An interesting thing is, although she said her parents were very rich, being independent doctors who had their own clinics and stuff, but it was all lie. She used economy class seats when she flied, but interestingly, she always hanged around at the lounge, which is only for first class passengers. And it is allegedly said she kind of fell down right in front of this 77-year-old gentleman. And everything started by his helping her stand up, which, is very likely to have been her act and performance. Now, let's look at her backgrounds, okay? Her parents were just company members, and her mother also worked probably like as a part-timer or something. And she was the second of three children, 3-year older sister and 2-year younger brother, and she was in the middle. Although she was not bullied, she was always very quiet, not outstanding person. So some don't even remember she was their classmate. She didn't like school, or she didn't like any sport. One ex-classmate of hers said she noticed her daily clothes were always behind the time, like old fashioned. It's highly likely that she was wearing her older sister's used clothing, as her parents not buying her own clothing. She was an ideal daughter, very quiet, always smiling, and playing quietly. Like I said, didn't clearly express her true voice. But gradually, as she entered high school and getting closer to her graduation, she started to develop her desire to look attractive. Though her high school was well known for being very strict for students' appearances, she did the makeup and shaved eyebrows and, did her best within the range that she was not scolded by her teachers. And once she graduated, as I said, she moved on to beauty school and got out of her parents' house. And that's the time she drastically changed herself. She was known to be a X-rated movie actress. Allegedly, she was on about 400 X-rated videos. Also, she registered herself at an escort company. Was said to be very popular with rich customers. So probably that is why she could play around with the host clubs, which is very popular in Japan, where women are served by very good looking young boys by paying unimaginably expensive fees like $10,000 and stuff. And she boasted how much money she spent last night and stuff like that to her peers at the beauty school. Now, I like to focus on what changed this girl who seemed to be a symbol of adorable, ideal daughter into this pathological liars, obsessed with money, not caring about selling her own bodies and showing at X-rated movies and stuff. In my own analysis, very reason is in her being incredibly adorable and pure girl itself. My past research of the relationship between childhood and later criminal behaviors, those who experienced severe lack of love and attention, including lack of materialistic satisfaction, later develop obsession with money and materials. So, being the second of the three siblings, she was act intentionally to be a good girl, partly because she wanted to attract her parents' attention, who didn't even buy her own clothes. But also, there might have been some kind of a dynamics working within the family that without being a good girl, she could have lost a niche within her family. In other words, their parents, especially her father, could have been very oppressive down onto her and other kids. There was one other case in which a mother killed her own daughter and neighborhood boy. The daughter was only supplied uncooked dried noodles, but I remember clearly the scene that I watched on TV that she was always overly attentive to her mother's expression. So those who were neglected emotionally and materialistic, they behave like an ideal good child to be liked and to get attention from their self-centered mother. So here's one value for you today. Neglect is more damage than abuse. I know it sounds strange to you, but there was a case in which those babies who were born out of wedlock were collected at the institution, where one nurse took care of around 10 babies. Some died, some developed stupor, some developed mental incapacities, and some became pathologically friendly regardless of who approached them. So neglect could kill the baby, and especially girls, because of the culture, especially in Japan. They are not supposed to express herself too strongly, but they have stronger interest in looking attractive as being a female. So being forced to wear all the clothing all the time when they are at the age of wanting to look and attractive to boys, it is very traumatizing. So I like to emphasize that today's neglect and abuse do not happen in a way that can be seen clearly from outside. Everything happens within secret box called family, especially a family that cut off of a neighborhood relationship completely has a high possibility that there's something strange going on inside, and that's the reason why they don't want to be closer to others, afraid that it could be disclosed. Oh, by the way, if you like this kind of story, please click that yellow and green Lucky Charm logo to subscribe. Also, I put the URL of my best videos at the description section. So if you are interested in, please check it out. Here's another value today. In terms of neglect, there are two types. One is simple neglect, in which kids are left alone without care. And the other is emotional neglect. That could happen in a family in which parents were very oppressive and force their values on their kids, nothing else. Or they show their love to them only when they did something that the parents are happy about. In other words, conditional love. So simple neglect and emotional neglect, that happens by psychological control, direct or indirect. I suspect these neglect could be happening in more American families today, and that could be the reason why mass shootings are happening everywhere, because mass murderers are from neglected family. At this moment, this 25-year-old wife is still in custody and being asked questions daily to clarify what exactly happened to that 77-year-old Don Fan. More details are coming out later. But one thing I would like you to remember is those who are not loved, especially during the first 3 years, they will develop pathological obsession with money or materials, which is in place of love which they could have gotten from their mother. They get obsessed with materials and money in place of love they could not get from mother. This is the third value. And nowadays in Japan, we see so many similar cases in which unloved female kept killing males who swarm around them for their insurance monies and savings and so on. So this is a very particular social pathology that Japan has, which I do not see in other countries so much. But anyway, this 25-year-old young wife having killed 55-year older husband, she must have carried the same level of scar caused by neglect and her growing up. This is all for today, and I hope something rang a bell to you. And you like this video, again click that red Dr. Samay logos. And up until next time, please have a peaceful and also wonderful time. Okay, bye bye now.